So thank you for joining me on what we call streamlining resources. So big picture, you have a closure of a plant, you're looking at your school finances, you're also looking at the projects. Sometimes we get caught up in what we should be doing or could be doing, but sometimes you just got to, this is, I think, what I actually do pretty well. It's not glamorous. It is making sure we take care of what we have first. And I don't want to put the district in a position, particularly if we have some monies now, to take care of things where 2 years from now we do see a sudden collapse, a really big collapse into our local funding with Ameren closing and maybe James Hardy not coming online. Just a lot of factors out there, a lot of things to consider. I just believe in being solid. In other words, if you have roofs that don't leak and you have things that work, that you can sustain. You may not be able to do something new, but we need to be able to protect teacher salaries and the educational process. So it's as crazy as it sounds, so many of the decisions that we make really stem around what advances instruction. How do we do things to make instruction better for our teachers and our kids in the classroom? Because that's really what that's what our job is. But we all know that there's so many things around a school, particularly when you're like a community school like us, that things that are expected, things that are wanted. But right now, in the last year and a half, taking a hard look at what we could do to make sure if tough times hit, we aren't having to go repair things, large projects, if that makes sense. I couldn't have done this over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, without Steve Walters, our maintenance director, each and every administrative team member. And you don't know how important that SWOT analysis is that we provide our community, but also we're doing SWOT analysis continually. So we have this list, Mr. Walters and I have this list. We look at it probably not as much as we should, but I would say every few weeks we sit down at different points in the end. Sometimes we're looking at it twice a week, when we know we've got to get some stuff done, and also prioritizing if something else pops up that we were unaware of too. But through this list, if you look at what we've done the last year and a half, and again, Mr. Walters deserves a lot of credit on this, and the list is available for you to look at, and I put them in categories, so like building, community, kitchen, safety, storage, vehicles. Think of a school district like home ownership. You're always having to repair or do something in your house, whether it's something new that you want to get done and or replacing something old that breaks down you need to replace. So that's continually what's going on in the district. So last year we've had some big projects. I know when I took over the position, kind of on the way out, it was mentioned that I needed to make sure the Platten roof was taken care of, and investigating that the Platten roof was in really bad shape. I do know that we worked with the Board of Education to move a little extra funds over into Fund 4 for last year, and we did bump those reserves up from the year prior, and we did let our community know through our board meeting what our intentions were, and it worked out that we were able to get the Platten roof completed with a brand new roof on it, and so that was a big victory for us. We also had the condensation issues in the Danby gym to get that roof repaired. We had enough funds to get that done as well. So again, kind of going back to that concept of if our roofs are in good shape and we have things that we're not having to repair like that later, it makes the withstand if there's a big drop in our assessed valuation and local funding. On the flip side, if there's not that big drop and we catch this thing breaks a good way for us here quickly, we have really gotten ahead of the game. And I think you're going to see that in the long-term planning segment of this, if you want to take a peek at that as well, as some of those projects we were looking at long-term are now gone. The roofs, those 2 roofs are gone, is a big deal. And we were able to bump some other projects up, and we're also start to look at 2 bond issues in the future planning for the school district. So looking at the project list, what we call building, Danby roof, gym, the Platten roof, the padding in the cafeteria. That wasn't a big project, but that cafeteria looks so much fresher down there at this point. The telegraph roof, we need to repair some of it. The roof itself wasn't leaking. It's the way it was draining out. The stuff the water goes into was sitting a few inches higher, so the water was pooling up and or time right around the edges. So this fall here, by the time you see this, the work may have already been done, but the telegraph roof will be repaired here in the near future from the time I'm recording this, and by the time you see it, this may be done. So I feel like we're in great shape on our roofs in general. HVA systems. If you've been a part of our CSIP planning, you've noticed that we had talked about replacing some of those units. Last spring, we had that hail damage. We had about $600,000 worth of damage that our insurance will be covering we're working with. So some of the HVAC stuff will be taken care of through our insurance. And I always look at that as good and bad. Maybe it's nice to get those projects done through some insurance repair money, but our insurance costs have gone up, taken a big jump this year, and that's for every district that uses the music organization. That storms over the past year and a half have been really, really hard on school districts and, well, everybody in the state, but specifically in the world of school districts. Our costs have gone up as much as 20% this year, and I see that number moving forward. It's kind of that catch-22. It's almost like you're kind of paying for it on some sort of payment plan with the insurance going up. But the good news is some of those HVA systems have come off our to-do list because some of the older units weren't just able to be repaired. The entire unit was replaced at this point. So that's how I see it. Just trying to be upfront with you. Is that there's some good and bad with that. But so if you're driving around our campus and seeing those boxes up there, HVAC stuff, we're waiting until it cools down just a little bit, hopefully in October and November, depending on weather, just to replace those units because we don't want the kids to get too hot. We're still kind of in this summer mode now. This is being filmed on the September 20th, to give you an example. It's been kind of a warm week. We didn't think it was in the best interest of our students to be doing that at that time. We really appreciate the help of the company to understand that. So I would say in October, you can see a lot of movement on our roofs to get those replaced. For the community, we had the smoker for a long time in the district. We actually traded that out, and we're now going to have a grill. Smoker was it did a great job, but it was a commitment to do it, and it wasn't real efficient for us. We felt like in order to engage our community better in certain activities, whether it be games, we don't have it yet, it's being delivered, but games, activities, a field day, if the PTO wants to use it, we have it here. Where you can basically, it's a gas grill, it's a large one, you can turn it on, cook things, and then kind of be done with it. You don't have the long prep and the long wait for the food. It can just kind of happen in real time, and we think that'll be a neat addition for us. So we look at the small things like that. Very little in and out on the money on that deal by the time we traded the smoker and basically paid the shipping on the grill to get it here. Kitchen was another big area for us. First of all, there was a dishwasher at Telegraph that was, it was well beyond its life cycle. And I know some of the things to do to keep it up, it got tiresome. But that was a $60,000 cost for us last year to replace that between all the labor and the part itself, the new dishwasher. But it's been a wonderful addition over there. And then the floor has been changed out for a safer environment for our staff over there. So that's like one example. And then we really took a hard look at the Danby kitchen and the things that Ms. Wagner's doing to really enhance the food quality for all of our students across the district. I really felt like the staff got to a point they were doing everything they could. So if you hadn't been in there in a long time, that old serving line with all the warmers and things that had not been in use for a long time. Nope. And so we had actually bought stuff on top of it. So it was kind of cumbersome. It was inefficient. So one of the projects over the summer was to change that equipment out. We're already seeing a huge difference in our food quality. But again, going back to the concept of making sure things work when you have the downturn, trying to get those things solid has been, first and foremost, and not using that money to do something new or shiny out there. We got to take care of our equipment first and make sure it's moving forward. Some other kitchen items was replacing this gas stove at the high school. That has been done. And really that was the big project. The other part of it that kind of falls into it, and I'm going to call it, I've got it listed as safety. It's part of the kitchen and also instruction, believe it or not. We're going to have a small podcast on that, but as we replaced the Danby cafeteria cables, they were becoming cumbersome. They were getting old. They were just old. We went ahead and bought a few more, and what Mr. Horn has done is actually split it into 2 lunch shifts instead of having 3, so kids don't have that 5th hour interrupted. They don't have to start a class for 20 minutes go eat and come back and finish it for another 30, however to get that 50 minutes in. That's not great for instruction. And even looking further where Mr. Rugley, a few years ago, we bought some extra tables at the high school. The tables over there were in great shape. We bought a few extra to have one lunch shift where all teachers, nobody has to supervise a lunch shift and give up instructional time. So I see it as instruction. Danby was safety, just making us more efficient with our instruction and everything we're doing. Some other safety items on here include the chairs at Jefferson High School. It's hard to believe that we're getting into the 15th year of the high school. It was built in 2009, kind of crazy, but those original chairs were starting to show some wear. So Mr. Rugley worked with Mr. Walters, and we went ahead last year and bought 100 to go ahead and change out, and another 50 or 100 to potentially change out down the road and get ready for that while we had the monies and didn't have to try to purchase that if we had a downturn with the Ameren plant closure. Simple things, lights on the corners of the bus garage. That wasn't a huge expense to the district, but to add safety down there, it's really dark in the evenings and it's made a huge difference. There were two sets of kitchen doors to the outside that were truly safety. The concrete had buckled underneath it. The doors were no longer, one of them wouldn't even open at telegraph. Those are real safety concerns. So those doors have all been replaced and repaired and the concrete work done around it. Again, Mr. Walters did a great job of getting that organized, getting those doors in. You're going to see something similar this year with some of our front doors. Specifically, an example will be a Danby. I would say by Christmas, you'll see a change out, if all things go well, to change those old doors that just really struggling to lock for safety issues. So we're looking at that as well. The school safety grant, Mr. Officer Nanny, has been working with us. We use that grant to actually purchase a huge printer so we can start doing better signage. If you remember our buildings, some of it's very cosmetic and looks awesome, but other times you're starting to see more room numbers, brighter posters. So if there's an emergency situation, they're coming in. Our awesome emergency services, whether it be law enforcement or the ambulance group coming in, can have a better grasp of where they go into school. Officer Nanny's doing a great job of that, but also Stevie down here working with that printer is doing some amazing things, both just for looks in the district, but also some of those are really tied to safety measures as well. So that's kind of our phase there. Storage, if you've noticed, we bought a new shipping container down at the football field. We had some great help getting that lowered in there from Pasdera and Goodwin, both teamed up to help us get that done. We really appreciate that. Putting our stuff in a safer, more secure environment is a big deal for us. And then lastly, when we came in, crazy or not, if you're familiar with our district, you notice there was an old black truck a couple of years ago. That thing just died. We started to look at the age of our vehicle fleet. So last year we had to replace the black truck. It was no longer working, so you've seen the red one. But then our van had several years, and we actually call it the Flintstone van because you could see through it because it rusted out. If you remember the old Flint, never mind. So we actually replaced that with a blue truck. And have had some great partners in getting that done as well. So we're looking at our vehicle fleet. We constantly look at our bus fleet. It's a really neat process, and I think over the next year you're going to see more projects. So if you're interested in that more, pay attention to our board meetings. We're going to do some more upgrades over this year. At some point we may have to really pull back and get really, really tight with budgets. You just don't know. But right now I would be remiss to say we're financially very sound. We've been very blessed with our assessed evaluation the last couple of years to get some of this done. Still move teacher salaries forward and our staff salaries forward. I think we're doing the best we can in a pretty unique situation. And I assure you, we cannot do it without those, including you. That's why the CSIP meeting exists, provide insight and maybe something we're not seeing. I do encourage you to check out more of the long-range planning and that part of this podcast series that we've got here. But again, thanks for joining me for this. And Jefferson R-VII is a great place to be. Thank you.